Okay, so this is part two because I needed a break because I was just feeling a little like overwhelmed with everything. But I don't even know how to go on and how to continue. I guess, I think there were a lot of high hopes for Meghan when she first came into the royal family. I know I felt that way. I felt what a wonderful thing for the royal family to have this American divorcee, biracial woman come in who can bring a breath of fresh air, some modernism, bridge America and England together. I was so excited. And one of the very last actually the last conversation I ever had with my mother that was coherent and complete was about the royal wedding with Meghan and Harry and how excited she was for their marriage. And we talked about it, how beautiful the wedding was, how wonderful it was, the high hopes that we had for, the institution of the monarchy and for their future. And I think a lot of people also felt that way. Of course, you were going to have the naysayers. Of course, you were going to have people that were negative and horrible. But I think the general consensus was high hopes and, blessings upon these people. But I really do think that Meghan could not cope with the rules and regulations of the royal family. She was in her mid-30s when she joined it. And when you look at somebody like Kate, she was introduced to the royal family, although not through marriage, through dating William when she was in her early 20s. And I don't think they got engaged until she was like 28 or 29. And they had an on and off again relationship all throughout their 20s. But she was introduced to that lifestyle and had been a part of that lifestyle for a long time. And there was a very lengthy, effectively, training period for her during that time frame where she kind of learned the rules and expectations of her. And also, this is kind of those important years of somebody's life on who they are, what they're going to be, how to grow, what to do. And so if you are effectively being groomed to be a queen when you're 19, 20 years old, when you actually do become princess, when you're, 28, 29 years old, you've had a lengthy grooming period where you are fully mentally and emotionally capable of taking on this role, because that is what you have been groomed to do for multiple years. Meghan wasn't like that. Meghan had had a life on her own where she was out there doing what she wanted to do, having a career, having all these things. And so for her to come in, having been, a worldly woman, an independent woman, all of a sudden coming in to an institution where it's, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to be this, you have to be that, I am sure was extremely difficult for her. I can't imagine what it would be like for me, to have to do those things. I think I would have major issues with that, being told what to do, how to be, what to say. And so I get that. I get that she didn't fully understand. But this is the problem that I have as a British citizen. Too bad. Too bad. You did not have to marry him. You didn't. Or even at the very beginning, he could have walked away at the very beginning. But he didn't do that. And you chose to marry him. And when that is your choice, again, you have those expectations and rules that you have to follow, whether you like them or not. And I understand that she didn't feel that the palace fully protected her and didn't fully come out and say what she wanted them to say or behave towards her in the way she wanted them to behave towards her. And I'm not saying that the palace did the right thing. But also, too, the palace is notoriously mum when it comes to their members and what goes on with them. But think about it. If every time a royal family member was in the press and something was said about them that was negative, all the palace would be doing would be issuing press statements left and right all the time, defending or, saying this isn't true. And they don't do that because I think a lot of it is they don't want to dignify the rumor mill. And they also have other things to do. And it's sort of like if they dignify these ridiculous press reports, they're playing into the British media. They're fueling that fire to constantly have to deal with these things. And it's sort of like the impression that I get is we're just going to ignore it. We're going to rise above it, and we're going to continue to do what we're going to do. We're not going to constantly acknowledge these things because the reality is they go away. You're going to have something that's in the press that's hot, that everybody, jumps on and screams about for, a week, and then it goes away because something else happens that gets everybody's attention and everybody screams and yells about that. And so that's kind of my perception on that. But, and I'll be honest, I don't know all of the articles that were written about Meghan in the British press. I didn't see them. I don't know what all the headlines were. I didn't follow them, so I don't know. And I'm certain that there were probably some really horrible things said about her. Absolutely. I believe that there were probably some really seriously racist things that were put in the British press. I believe it. But I do not believe that she wasn't prepared for that. And I guess my problem with all of this is that I really do feel that duty to country is really, really important. Really important. And I think the Queen is the prime example of that, for better or for worse. This woman has given up so much for her country. And, there have been times where I haven't been the biggest fan of the Queen, particularly when Diana died. But I think I look back on the Queen and the way she's conducted herself through the years, and the way, especially in the recent past, she's conducted herself. And I really am really impressed by her and her dedication to her country. And it is really remarkable to see somebody dedicate themselves to a cause that is bigger than themselves. And she has done that for her whole life, and I'm sure at great personal sacrifice. And in a sense, it's a shame that I'm sure there are things that she wishes she could have done or said that she didn't get to do because she took her duty to country above everything else. There is a very famous radio broadcast with her and her sister Margaret when they were little girls. They were, 9 years old, giving a broadcast on the radio to the children of England during World War II who had been evacuated from London and gone into the countryside. And it's a lot of responsibility and pressure on two little girls themselves to talk to the other children of England about, don't worry, you'll be back with your parents soon. I mean, that's a lot for a little child to have to do. But she did it because that was a part of her responsibility as a future queen. And her parents did put that on her. But she took that and has continued to take that responsibility of being the leader of our great country for decades. And I admire her for that. And she's done it with humility and grace and without complaint. And she really, really has. And, even like Charles, I cannot say the same for him. I can't. Because he did that interview with, I think, Panorama in the late 80s, early 90s with the Diana divorce. And I mean, it was horrific. It was horrific. Every, interview that the royal family, a member of the royal family has given of a personal nature has always backfired really, really bad. Because even when you watch the Princess Diana interview, I think from like 1992, it is a train wreck. It is an absolute horror show that she did this. She looks bad. The prince looks bad. Everybody looks bad. And I think years from now, the same thing is going to be said for this interview, that everybody looks bad. Nobody came out well. And it is just, it's a shame. It's a real shame. And I look at all of this, and for Harry, what I can say is I hope that it was worth it. I really do. Because, I watched his little like kind of skit thing with James Corden that came out about a week or two ago. And the thing that struck me the most was when James Corden was in the double-decker bus and was like, "Oh, Harry, pay the fee and come on upstairs." And Harry said, "Oh, I can't pay because us royals don't carry cash." And it was, a joke. But that's true. Royals don't carry cash. But number one, he's not a royal anymore. And number two, that made me just realize, oh, you're in for a rude awakening. That, you're not a royal anymore. And how are you going to function in everyday life? How are you going to be a person? Even though, you're not a royal anymore, you still have kind of this celebrity status because of who you are. But you don't have the servants at your beck and call anymore. You don't have the same privileges that you did before. How are you going to make it, not totally on your own, because that's not fair, but how are you going to live a more normal life when you yourself have never lived one? And I think it's going to be a really rude awakening for him. And I hope that he makes it through. I really do. I think as much as Meghan struggled in the palace with her mental health, I think Harry may have similar struggles being in America and living in California, because this is an entirely different life for him. And I don't know how well suited he is going to be for that. And I hope that he's able to make it through. And I hope that he does go forward and have a wonderful life and is happy. But I do wonder, has all of this been worth it? I don't know. I guess only time will tell for that. And of course, we don't live with him. We don't know him personally. But I do think that those are things to think about. I don't know if I really think of Meghan as a villain. I don't like her. I don't think she's a bad person. But I don't know. I'm just... there's something about her that rubs me the wrong way, and I don't know what that is. And perhaps that's another thing that only time will tell. I feel like there's a little bit of self-righteousness with her that I have a little bit of a problem with. And I do think that Harry went about leaving the royal family in the wrong way. And I do think that this interview being released was ill-timed because his grandfather is in the hospital. He has been in the hospital for not quite 3 weeks at this point in time. He's sick. He's 99 years old. And, if you claim to love your family the way that you say you do, why release such an interview when your grandfather is extremely ill? I don't think it's the right thing to do. But that's just me. So those are some of my thoughts that I've had about this interview. So yeah, I guess that's just kind of some stuff that I wanted to get off my chest. So, all right. Good night, everybody.